Christian James here. Today's video, the province of Alberta, Canada's Texas if you will, the Premier, Danielle Smith, made a groundbreaking announcement in regards to gender ideology, transmissions, all that type of shit. So I don't know what she's getting into. I hope it's something positive. From what I've heard, it may be if you're on the side of right and not insanity. Nonetheless, I'm going to shut up like I always do. We're going to get into it. I'm going to go to it from there. I'm going to react to it from there. I can't go to it. I'm fucking here, dummy.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks to everyone for joining me today. Yesterday, I released a video in which I laid out our government's policy direction on the issues of preserving the choices children have regarding their gender identity until they are mature enough to make them. Policies to better involve parents in their children's education on sensitive issues, and finally, policies addressing the issue of women, girls, and transgender athletes in competitive sports. These are sensitive conversations involving children, and I hope we can depoliticize these issues as much as possible as we work through the process of implementing these policies into law and regulation in a fair and effective way. I want to start by saying that every Albertan who identifies as transgender, I care deeply about your happiness and your well-being. I support you in becoming the person that you want to be or who you already are. And as Premier of this province, I will ensure your rights are always protected. For children who identify as transgender, I want you to also know that these policies are being implemented in order to protect the choices you have regarding altering your physical body until after you've grown mature enough to make such choices safely and with a full understanding of what that means for the rest of your life. These policies include a prohibition on gender reassignment surgeries for minors aged 17 and under. For children aged 15 and under, puberty blockers and hormone therapies for the purpose of gender reassignment will also not be permitted.
I don't think you'll be able to do it until you're 18, but whatever.
Treatment at this time. For minors aged 16 and 17 who wish to start hormone therapies for gender reassignment purposes, this will be permitted with parental, physician, and psychologist approval and consent. Alberta's government is also working to attract specialists in gender reassignment surgeries and care to Alberta to assist adults who have a wish to transition, and we plan to build a private registry of these experts to support their lifelong health needs. In our classrooms, we will ensure discussions about gender identity and other sensitive subjects happen at the right time and with the parent-child relationship at its core. This will include a parental opt-in consent requirement when teachers plan to discuss subject matter related to gender identity, sexual orientation, or sexuality for K-12 students. Further, children aged 15 and under will require parental notification and consent before their name or pronouns are changed in school. For minors aged 16 and 17, parental consent won't be required for this, but parents will have to be notified. We will support families with a new pilot program to provide counseling services for families in need to assist with navigating these issues together. In rare circumstances, when transgender children experience an abusive parent, there are, of course, child protection laws that will be enforced. And lastly, we are implementing policies to protect fairness and safety in women's and girls' sports. We will work with sporting organizations to ensure that women and girls have the chance to participate in competitive sport without having to compete against biologically stronger transgender women athletes, while also ensuring that we work with those same organizations to expand co-ed and gender-neutral categories so that every transgender athlete can meaningfully participate in the sports that they love. Gender identity can be a very emotional issue, especially in the context of children. And as we move forward developing and implementing these policies into law, I hope we can depoliticize the issue as much as possible and focus on the well-being of the children involved. Thank you. I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you. We'll be going with one question.
All right, before the Q&A portion gets going, I imagine it's going to be wild because, let's face it, there's a lot of woke and progressive reporters. What she said makes sense. You can't cut off your willy or your titties until you're 17 or 18. You can't have any puberty blockers until you're 15 minimum with psychologists and parental approval at the same time, which is a brilliant idea. Look, we can't allow people to mutilate children because children had an idea. We don't let children drive cars or have guns. We don't let children smoke or join the army. Everything has a minimum age. apparently, until you decide what you want to do with your physical body, so we can chop it up and throw parts out and throw new pieces in and dig holes where your penis should be and all this stuff. And it's perfectly acceptable because the child thought it was a good idea. I'm going to stop my rant. They're going to start the questions. Let's go.
Question, one follow-up today. We're very tight on time, so please make sure to respect your colleagues with that one question, one follow-up. For those in the room here as well, please give priority to an outlet who has not asked a question if yours has already. We'll start off here on the ground, and then we'll go over to the phones and back and forth. So first with the mic, please go ahead, state your name and outlet first.
Alana Smith, Globe and Mail. You've spoken passionately about bodily autonomy, about depoliticizing the conversation around trans and non-binary children, and, as in your own words, not using them as a political football. In November, you made clear you wanted to strike a balance on parental rights. The parental rights policies here are more aggressive than any other province, and the restrictions around hormones and puberty blockers are unprecedented in Canada. So what changed that?
Pause. Unprecedented in Canada. This is unprecedented in the world. We didn't have this 10 years ago. People weren't like, well, I don't need this dick. I'm going to throw it in the garbage. Well, I don't need these. Let's get rid of them. This is insane. So, of course, it's unprecedented. Of course, it's the first province to take a goddamn stand. I hope mine's fucking next. But if not, I might have to move to Alberta to get some goddamn sanity in life. But, of course, they start with dumb questions. Not, well, this is what they ask is fucking dumb questions. That's why they're all losing their goddamn job soon enough.
That made you take this approach?
Well, we know that we have to preserve the rights of kids to be able to make decisions as adults. I think that we've seen in other jurisdictions, I believe in June of last year, New Brunswick made policy changes. In the fall, Saskatchewan made policy changes. We've been watching internationally as the UK has made policy changes, as well as Denmark, Norway, Finland, Sweden. I mean, this has been an ongoing conversation over the last number of years. We've been
People don't
monitoring
want
it
children
very
being
closely,
abused for no
and we wanted to
reason.
make sure that we struck the right balance so that kids are not making irreversible decisions when they may not be mature enough to make those decisions. We want to make sure that those adult decisions are made as adults.
I'm not sure what the balance is. Can you be more specific?
Well, when you begin hormone therapy, there are health consequences associated with that. It is a decision that impacts your life. Higher risk of osteoporosis, so there's a need to have bone density tests. There's higher incidence of heart problems, so there's a need to have that monitored. Stepping on to the next stage, when there's bottom surgery and top surgery, that of course has implications for sex and for fertility. And so when we start down this pathway, we want to make sure that kids know the consequences that it's going to have on their life, and that they're mature enough to be able to make those decisions and live with the consequences. And they're adult decisions, so we want to make sure that certain decisions are made as adults.
Isn't it insane that Shesha has to... What she said, if you rewind what she said and listen to... It's insane that at a press conference as a politician, you have to address someone. Where you mean that and adults make all their lives? That's a pretty good balance.
Standard, Madam Premier, good afternoon. I heard you say just a moment ago that one of the influence was that other jurisdictions were taking... In fact, you have been notably elusive on this. You've been asked you to articulate the arguments that persuaded you strong pro-family policy was the right thing to do.
Well,
a pro-family policy is the right thing to do. A family is the right thing to have. I can't take much more of this, and I got another half hour to go. I'm going to start losing my shit.
I put it through the context of the children who are struggling with gender identity. And I do have a young person like that in my life, so I've been watching this very closely for the last number of years. And I know that that journey is always better when you've got supportive friends and loved ones and family. I know that making sure that kids are able to make those decisions at the appropriate time as their maturity grows has been vitally important from what I have observed personally. And I want to make sure that child-parent bond remains strong, because the family is with you for life. And so when I look at children going through these very difficult decisions through puberty. It's a confusing time. We have to make sure that we have that balance of making sure families are supported, but also making sure that the child is able to become who they're meant to be. So those are the reasons why I thought we needed to put some of these guidelines in place. I'm also observing around the world there really is a lot of divergence in the medical community about when the right time is for these things. In the absence of providing guideposts, it really is going to be just up to the individual doctor, and we just don't think that that's the environment that we should be having here. We should be very clear about when a child is able to commence hormone therapy. That'll be at age 16 with parental and psychologist and doctor approval, and very clear about when they can make permanent, irreversible changes to their body in top and bottom surgery, and that'll be 18 and above. So I think we've struck the right balance here.
Many sporting associations receive funding from the provincial government. Will there be a financial incentive for them to act in the spirit of this family-friendly policy?
Well, I would say that we want to make sure that every individual has a ability to participate in a competitive way in their sport. And there already are a lot of divisions in sport where they're co-ed or gender neutral, and we want to maintain that. But we also know that there are some sports where the physical differences make a difference. And so in those cases, we do want to have biological women who are born biologically female, have the choice of being able to participate.
Look at the word salad she's trying to do to not offend anybody. Women who are actual women. That's what you're trying to say. You should play against women who are actually women, not men who put on dresses and chop off their willies to feel better about themselves. Just say what you want to say when you want to say it, for the love of God. With one person, just say it the way they fucking feel.
In a biological female-only category, while still preserving the gender-neutral categories and co-ed opportunities, so that everyone has the ability to participate. So there are many sporting organizations who have been asking for this clarity. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to work through and provide options for everyone. So my Minister of Tourism and Sport is going to be commencing that discussion. But I'm from the feedback that we're getting, I think that this is going to be welcomed by several sports.
Hi, Colette DeWars from the Canadian Press. You've talked a lot about having a non-binary family member. How much did your discussions with them and or other non-binary individuals, youth especially, did that play into this decision, and how?
I've been consulting with members of the transgender community since the last time I was in politics, and one of the constant things that I hear is how difficult it is to get connected with somebody who understands transgender medicine, the need for ongoing hormone therapy, and managing the health conditions that come from being on a lifetime of hormone therapy. I met with Lois Cardinal, who, as you may know, felt that she was rushed into bottom surgery and is having consequences of that, and her great frustration is that there hasn't been appropriate medical aftercare for that. And so those are the kind of things that I was struck by, is how can we make sure that those who make the choice to go down this pathway to affirm their new identity have the physical support that they need through that process, have doctors who are trained in the type of medicine, have the ability to have those surgeries in province. Right now, we send those individuals to Quebec, and we just don't have the same level of ability to do aftercare. And so we want to attract somebody into our province. We're working on that right now, who can do the surgeries here so that the aftercare can be done here. And we also want to develop a registry of doctors who are able to provide this type of treatment long term, so that nobody has to guess whether or not their doctor is educated enough to be able to provide them the care. So I would say that I've been very influenced over many years, talking to many individuals in the transgender community and helping to develop that approach.
I talked to a legal expert who said that parental rights are not really a thing in Canada. Children's rights are.
You got to love this, right? You got to love this. Every time a woke reporter says this, experts. She gave a name of a transgender person who did not appreciate being rushed into having her getting a penis. This is so weird. But again, experts. Name your expert. I bet you Danielle won't press her on it, but if you press her, there's no name.
They're enshrined in the Charter. How confident are you that these new policies won't violate the Charter and the Canada Health Act as well if you're reducing access to services?
Well, I guess I'll have the lawyers debate that out, but my understanding is that it's pretty well understood that parents are principally responsible for their children up to and including age 15. At age 16 or 17, that's of course when kids develop a little bit more autonomy. And we do have children along that spectrum able to make different types of decisions, and they don't become able to make fully adult decisions on a lot of things until they're 18. So this is why you see in our policy that 16 and 17 is the point at which they can begin the process with input from parents. There is also, of course, there has been legal jurisprudence around the issue of mature minors, so I'm sure that there's a case law that can be drawn on this. It's a fairly rare to be established as a mature minor. So I think that the practice has been that we do rely on parents to be able to provide for their kids.
Kelly Kreiderman, Globe and Mail. Premier, you talked here about what is happening in Europe, but what is different from Europe than what you've laid out here is you are talking about codifying restrictions on what healthcare youth have access to.
Pause. It's not healthcare. If you get hit by a truck, you're covered. If you get a bee sting, you're covered. If you get assaulted, you need to go to the hospital, you're covered. You're covered for anything related to health. If you want to start doing all this mutilation, that's not healthcare. That has nothing to do with your overall health. And I know somebody's like, well, it's their mental health. Okay, there's a lot of issues nowadays on mental health, right? It's easy to identify a broken leg. It's easy to identify an infection. You just do some blood work. How do you identify mental health? The person says there's something wrong with them. You have to believe there's something wrong with them. Healthcare.
In that codification, will there be penalties for healthcare providers, parents, or teachers who breach the rules, who maybe take their child to another province for a surgery or a treatment?
Well, I would hope that that doctors follow the rules. I would hope that they would follow the rules as we've laid them out here, and we're aiming to be supportive of children's rights. We want to make sure that children do not prematurely make decisions that are going to be irreversible and affect their ability to have sex and affect their ability to have children until they're of an age where they're fully responsible for those decisions. That's age 18. So I think that we've struck a reasonable balance, and I would hope that we would get the support of both the medical profession as well as the school community.
So again, will there be penalties for those who don't follow the rules?
We have just put out the high-level policy at the moment. We'll be talking about implementation as we go forward in over the coming months. We're looking at having those things that need to be legislated or put into regulation or policy, having that package ready for the fall. So we'll be seeking consultation on the implementation of it.
Hi, Premier Jason Marksoff from CBC. I think a lot of people may take different interpretations of what depoliticizing or not politicizing this may be. Did you or do you believe that the premiers and governments of New Brunswick and Saskatchewan had politicized this issue?
I think that what we're doing here with our package of proposals, and there's 10 of them, is that we're trying to demonstrate that we understand that beginning the process of transition is just one step, and there are other steps along the way that have serious consequences for kids. So changing how you dress and the pronouns that you have is just one step. The next step, which is far more serious, is puberty blockers and hormones. The following steps, top and bottom surgery, are even more serious steps. And so we want to make sure that as kids embark upon those life-changing decisions, that we're very clear about the appropriate level to be able to make those decisions. There has to be a certain level of maturity, of understanding the consequences, the full consequences of what that transition means. And then at age 18 is when, of course, a person becomes fully responsible for all of their decisions. So we look at this as an entire package that we want to put forward so that we can make sure that we're giving the best support to kids and the best support to transitioning adults.
You didn't answer that, but I'll try something else. Thanks. How do you reconcile, or I'm trying to square the idea that you want to support these children in all journeys they want, but also you're worried they're going to make a terrible mistake that's going to alter their life and make them unable to have sex. How do those two come together?
Well, I mean,
Are they making a mistake, or do you support their journey?
I would say that I support the journey of adults who want to transition to another gender as far as they are adults and able to accept the consequences of those decisions. I certainly do not want children to be making decisions before maybe they've even had sex about whether they want to stop that aspect of their life, or before they've even contemplated whether they want to have kids, to cut off that aspect of their life. I think that as adults, we have an obligation to ensure for kids that they preserve all of those important choices until they're adults, until they're able to make those decisions with the maturity that goes along with that. So that's I think it is supportive, and we want to make sure that in every step of that journey that the kids feel supported by their families and supported by mental health support if that's what they need. But that is, I think that when you're talking about irreversible decisions, that falls into the category of adult choices. And so we want to make sure that they're making those choices as adults.
And we're going to hop.
All right, I've covered enough of that. We see what it's about. We heard her announcement at the beginning. She laid out the groundwork, and all the other questions following up are going to be the same repetitive horseshit, stupidity. Anybody's trying to get a gotcha moment or a headline. I agree with it. Adults, if you're an adult, do whatever you want. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, I don't give a flying fuck what you do. I think most people are in agreement, unless you're religious and you have a problem with anybody doing anything they want to do. But if you're a child, I was a child. Thank God the decisions I made at 12 or 13 didn't have to stick with me, 14, 15, 16 even, for the rest of my life. Like, comment, subscribe, tell me I'm right, tell me I'm wrong, tell me what you do in the situation, tell me if you're in Alberta and you're going to move away, tell me if you're going to move to Alberta to get away from all the insanity. I'm out.